Good morning. This is Vaibhav. My topic for today is how should I prioritize my life? Success can be defined as the progressive realization of a predetermined goal. This definition tells us that discipline to prioritize and the ability to work toward a stated goal are essential to a leader's success. You may have read about the Pareto's principle. It is commonly called 20-80 principle. It is a most useful tool for determining priorities in a person's life or in an organization. 20% of your priorities will give you 80% of your production. If you spend your time, energy, money, and personnel on the top 20% of your priorities. I'll give you an example of the Pareto's principle. Time. 20% of our time produces 80% of the results. Reading. 20% of the book contains 80% of the content. Job. 20% of our work gives us 80% of our satisfaction. Speech. 20% of the presentation produces 80% of the impact. Leadership. 20% of the people will make 80% of the decisions. Picnic. 20% of people will eat 80% of the food. Every leader needs to understand the Pareto's principle in the area of people, oversight, and leadership. There are a few points. Determine which people are the top 20% producers. Spend 80% of your people time with the top 20%. Spend 80% of your personal development dollars on the top 20%. Ask the top 20% to do on-the-job training for the next 20%. Remember, we teach what we know. We reproduce what we are. Remember, it's not how hard you work, it's how smart you work. The ability to jiggle 3 or 4 high priority projects successfully is a must for a leader. Success in your work will be greatly increased if the 3 R's are taken care of: requirement, return, and reward. In other words, if the requirement of your job are the same as the strength that give me the highest return, and doing those things bring me great pleasure, then I will be successful if I act on my priorities. William James said that the art of being wise is the art of knowing what to overlook. The petty and the mundane steal much of our time. Dr. Anthony Campolo asked one question: if you could live your life over again, what would you do differently? It was an open-ended question, and a multiplicity of answers came from these eldest of senior citizens. 3 answers constantly re-emerged and dominated the results of the study. Those answers were: if I do it over again, I would reflect more. If I do it over again, I would risk more. If I do it over again, I would do more things that would live on after I am dead. A young concert violinist was asked the secret of her success. She replied, planned neglect. Then she explained, when I was in school, there were many things that demanded my time. When I went to my room after breakfast, I made my bed, straightened the room, dusted the floor, and did whatever else came to my attention. Then I hurried my violin practice. I found I wasn't progressing as I thought I should. So I reversed things. Until my practice period was completed, I deliberately neglected everything else. That program of planned neglect, I believe, accounts for my success. William Hinson tells us why animal trainers carry a stool when they go into a cage of lions. They have their whips, of course, and their pistols are at their sides, but invariably they carry a stool. Hinson says it is the most important tool of the trainer. He holds the stool by the back and thrusts the legs towards the face of the wild animal. Those who know maintain that the animal tries to focus on all four legs at once. In the attempt to focus on all four, a kind of paralysis overwhelms the animal, and it becomes tame, weak, and disabled because its attention is fragmented. If you are overloaded with work, list top priorities on a separate sheet of paper before you take it to your boss and see what he will choose as the priorities. Robert McCain said, the reason most major goals are not achieved is that we spend our time doing second things first. Often the little things in life trip us up. A tragic example is an Eastern Airlines jumbo jet that crashed in the Everglades of Florida. As the plane approached Miami Airport for its landing, the light that indicates proper deployment of the landing gear failed to the light. When the flight engineer tried to remove the light bulb, it won't budge. And the other members of the crew tried to help him. As they struggled with the bulb, no one noticed the aircraft was losing altitude. A dozen of people were killed in the crash, while an experienced crew of high-priced pilots fiddled with a 75-cent light bulb. The plane with its passengers flew right into the ground. If you have only one letter to write, it will take all day to do it. If you have 20 letters to write, you will get them done in one day. When is our most efficient time in our work? The week before a vacation. When time pressure mounts or emergencies arise, we become effective. Efficiency is the foundation for survival. Effectiveness is the foundation of success. On the night of April 14th, 1912, the Titanic crashed into an iceberg in the Atlantic and sank. One of the most curious stories to come from the disaster was of a woman who had a place in one of the lifeboats. She asked if she could return to her stateroom for something and was given just 3 minutes. In her stateroom, she ignored her own jewelry and instead grabbing 3 oranges. Then she quickly returned to her place in the boat. Just hours earlier, it would have been ludicrous to think she would have accepted a crate of oranges in exchange for even one small diamond. But circumstances had suddenly transformed all the values on the ship. The emergency had clarified her priorities. The story about Senator Paul Tsonga of Massachusetts. In January 1984, he announced that he would retire from the US Senate and not seek re-election. Tsonga was a rising political star. Had he been mentioned as a potential future candidate for the presidency or vice presidency of the United States, a few weeks before his announcement, Tsonga had learned he had a form of lymphatic cancer which could not be cured but could be treated. In all likelihood, it would not greatly affect his physical ability or life expectancy. He would not be able to do everything he might want to do. So, what were the things he really wanted to do in the time he had? He decided that what he wanted most in life was being with his family and watch his children grow up. He would rather do that than shape the nation's law and get his name in the history books. Nobody on his deathbed ever said, "I wish I had spent more time on my business." Thank you.